about it? And record temperatures here in North Carolina. I'm sure your parents have told you about it. It's cold.
Yeah. So it'll be a good time for me to come and visit, because then I won't be in shock.
Exactly. Oh, wait, tomorrow I'm sure it'll be 88 and 100% humidity.
I always love seeing who's brave enough to turn on their video cam here and who's hiding behind the video off.
Yeah.
Betty, I can... a bunch of folks dialing in here.
Betty, I can see your index finger. You're trying to cover up your camera, but it's not working. And Betty, let me give you a shout out, because if you saw our office space, you would be appalled. You would not even want to come back to Wake Forest. We as coaches have just let your space go to, you know what, just not a happy workspace. Not even the copy man feels safe coming in and visiting with us.
Hey, Jen.
We're going to give this one more minute, maybe as we still, and there's still looks like a pretty steady stream of folks dialing in, at over 80 that had RSVP for this. So we'll let everyone continue to dial into this call. But as you all are dialing, a couple quick housekeeping notes. And most of you are doing this already. I think we've all gotten enough experience over the last few months with the Zooms and the WebExes that y'all are kind of picking up on these tips. But if you haven't yet, please just, if you scroll through your WebEx screen, there's a couple buttons on the bottom of your page. One of those to the far left is a mute button. If you're not on, if you don't mind, just hit that mute button just so that we avoid some of the background and feedback we might get during conversation. And then the 5th button on that bottom is a little chat bubble. If everyone will click open that chat bubble, we'll try to do throughout the course of this call is make it a conversation. Let's have dialogue. So I appreciate those of you that sent in questions in advance, and there were a number of those, so we'll get to those questions. But I'm sure what will happen is as we get into conversation, as you hear some of those questions, more ideas will come to mind. So we'll make this as conversational as possible. And if you'd like to ask a question, raise your hand and we can kind of call you out in that chat box. Or if you prefer, just feel welcome to put your comment or question in that chat box, and we'll continue to bring those to light and allow Jen to be on the hot seat for as long as possible, her favorite place to be, to make this a really productive conversation for you all. The conversations for those of you who are taking the time to dial in. So again, appreciate that. We'll give this maybe one more minute as folks are still dialing in here, but great to see so many faces. Great to see so many initials in your boxes for those of you that aren't turning the video on, but looking forward to this conversation.
Non, ils sont complètement partis.
And as we're still waiting on folks to dial in here, if you have comments on this photo here that Jen has already commented on a couple of times, please feel free to make those comments directly to Jen. It's a stellar photo of her, one she's very proud of. Looking forward to those comments, and I'm sure you're already getting texts on Jen. I see you laughing over there. We'll get going here in the next minute or so. I'm seeing a lot of faces I've recognized, and good seeing a lot of you again. Also, a lot of new names. For those of you that I haven't met yet, My name is Gerard Mcmahon. I am an assistant athletic director with the development team. There's a few other of us development folks on the call. You may see some familiar faces as you're all scrolling through the bar there of everyone on this call. It's been a privilege to work with Coach Jen over the last few years and our student athletes over the last few years. Definitely learned a lot about how to conduct ourselves, how to drive a team forward, a lot about leadership, all of which is a testament to you, Jen. I'm sure a lot of those ideas will come up during the course of our conversation here. Again, for those of you that are dialing in now, a few quick just housekeeping notes. And you all are mostly doing this already, but you'll see on the bottom of your screen a few different bubbles that will pop up. The one on the far left is that mute button, if you don't mind. And most of you have done this already. Just click that mute button just so that we avoid the feedback and background noise throughout the conversation. And the other piece that I'd ask everyone to just engage with is the fifth little circle on your bottom of the screen is a chat box. Open up that chat box. We'll make this conversation as conversational as we can so that we can get into some true dialogue. That's all, y'all. This call is for you, so please feel free to help guide the conversation, take the conversation wherever you'd like. We'll start by getting into some of those questions that were delivered to us in advance. And maybe the first question, Jen, that I think could start our conversation kind of plays off a conversation that you and I were both part in earlier today. Earlier today, John Curry brought together an open forum of our entire athletic department to just speak to the powerful movements that we've seen across the country over the past few days and weeks surrounding social justice. And a number of you wrote in questions about that specifically the last few days, whether it was a commendation on the field hockey program in particular, or just a question on how Jen, you and the team is looking at social justice. And, speaking as someone who, again, has learned a lot from you and from our student athletes over the last few years, seeing the way that your team has embraced social justice, being active, whether it's within SAC, on campus, or just in the Winston-Salem and student athlete community, has been inspiring to witness. So, Jen, maybe we could start off, if you wouldn't mind, just spending a few minutes just talking to what your program has done enacting and standing behind social justice reform.
Sure. Well, without a doubt, I have to give credit to our student athletes, our current student athletes. In particular, I have three that come to mind. Number one, Hannah Maxwell, Moogs. For those of you who don't know these nicknames, I should probably use proper names. Maggie Dickman, and also Eleanor Weinitz. Those are kind of our front runners and really individuals who have taken a personal initiative on some causes that they would like to present to our squad. Hannah encouraged student athletes on our team, as well as others, to participate in an online free course at Yale. She feels very strongly, as do many of us, about the application of educating ourselves. So before we can initiate and mentor change, we have to be well-rounded and better educated as white privileged individuals to better understand the complexities of everything that we're working with. Then you have Eleanor, who put out a passionate plea to look, we're athletes and running should come natural to us. And this is a cause that has taken flight across the country. So she aligned herself with other student athletes around the country in that 8.46 mile run last Monday, and in a sponsorship for Black Lives Matters. And then you have Maggie Dickman, who is just, like, hey, I'm in it. How do I support you? How do I engage? How do I, feed off of this momentum and really inspire my other teammates and other SAC members and other people on our campus to be, just like leaders in this. And I think it's all, we're all so raw in all of this. And what I really asked of our team was that whatever we do, let's have a spotlight on ourselves where this isn't just a one-off. This isn't just an actionable piece that we do once or twice or three times and are involved just geographically within our communities. How can we look back a year from now? How can we look back 2 years from now and really see that we have affected change in the ability that we can? So that was our directive, and I'm super proud of our athletes for taking that initiative upon themselves. The second thing is, which is I think a bigger issue, Gerard, and to all of our callers, is that you know, the NCAA and Wake Forest is just a microcosm of the bigger issue, and we've got to get more active in our NGB and our national governing bodies. The diversity that field hockey has around the globe is the diversity within the internationals that we bring over to the United States. But I think that as a United States Field Hockey Association, as you know, going from that big entity down to our little weed whacker program that we have, that our kids take part in within our community, how can we do a better job of reaching other areas around our community, around the globe, to attract a more diversified student athlete that we're working on? And that's kind of a gut check, and that's where, you know, I hold some accountability and responsibility for myself to get more involved and to have, you know, great reflection on that. So, you know, do we have a lot of African American and Black student athletes in our sport? No. Could we be doing better? Yes. And so that is our charge, and we will look for ways that, again, we can do a better job of outreaching. We can do a better job of making the sport available to everybody. And I hope that answers that question.
Jen, I appreciate that, and appreciate just hearing and learning your perspective. And again, seeing the way our Student Athlete Advisory Committee of the SAC has tackled this with the full support of your program and really our student athletes across campus, in addition to John Curry's leadership, as again, just it's been satisfying and encouraging to see the progress made, but also understanding that we're not there yet. We need to continue to actively push forward and then actively be aware of social justice issues all around us.
I think, if I could interject too, I think one of the greatest experiences of being a coach at a Wake Forest is the partnership that we have with our students. And so much growth and so much inspiration in our motives come from the students themselves. And for this movement to be happening in our world, I think is a byproduct of the aggressive, proactive behaviors that we have in our youth. And to me, it's just super exciting to see their energy, to see their passion come forward with, like, you know what, this isn't going to go away, and we demand change. And so that's where, you know, I just get super jacked up and excited about, all right, you know, we work with some pretty talented individuals and you know, across the board in all sports. So just a really great thing. I always say, you know, like Jackie Gonzo and I, we have, people pay us to do this. People pay us to coach hockey. If we can't be paid professional athletes, then second best job in the world, no question.
And I appreciate it. I might pause here. Ed Bale, I appreciate your first comment in the chat box and a few texts that are rolling in. It does seem like there might be a few people where the access code isn't quite working. No, for those of you that are getting texts, we're working on that here to figure out what that challenge might be. But also, we can take comfort. The call is going to be recorded, so we can share out. Jen, it's going to be recorded, so again, behave. But we'll share out the recording for anyone that is missing at least these first 10 minutes or so. Jen, one of the conversations we were having kind of before the call started was about this beautiful background you're sitting behind or sitting in front of right now. And we're talking about social justice challenges going on right now all around us, and that just fits into this past 3 months of COVID that we've all been kind of working through. And you might like to think that we've all been through a lot over the courses of our careers, and Jen, I'm sure you've seen a lot over the 20 some odd years you've been coaching. But this is another new frontier for us. So another kind of significant stream of questions we had been getting in the lead up to today just surrounds how we've been either coping with or embracing this idea of working from afar. And Jenny mentioned some of the recruiting calls you've been having, and whether or not you've been going into the office or not in the office. If you don't mind, maybe we can get into just a little bit of conversation around how you've been staying in touch with the team from kind of a remote situation during COVID, and how you've been bringing the team together through calls like this, whether it's WebEx forums or kind of open dialogue and text chains within the team format.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gerard. So, yeah, the first thing that we did was try and get the fire out that was on our head, right? We were just like running around. I think the first 2 weeks was just educating ourselves to what was available and what wasn't, what we could and what we couldn't do. And what we found was, to be transparent, is we wanted to do too much too soon. And we found ourselves second week of COVID, which was, I would guess, around March 17th to the 20th, of slowing down. And I know that my former student athletes that are on this call can appreciate, me just coming at 110 miles an hour at them. And let's just like, I know you're not in school, but we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And the kids were just like drowning. They're just like, okay, we thought we wanted a spring break, but we would rather be at school right now with you punishing us than what we're having to experience right now. So it was trial by error for sure, and kind of settled into a more seamless entry. And what we found is all the things that you want to do as a coach that maybe you put on the back burner, we started to get engaged. So first and foremost, how can we start to iron out and really hammer in some of the cultural pieces that are necessary in the 9 months that, once the season starts, you kind of, there's other things that are just coming to the surface. So how could we hammer some of those principles out and really create a conducive and interactive and engaging environment for people to speak their mind? And the first thing you have to do is, some of the topics that we're talking about require people to be extremely vulnerable, okay, and open-minded. And so, you have to create a safe space. And the safe space is easier for seniors to do than it is for the younger players. So just really encourage them to take smaller subject items apart and break out into breakout groups and talk in smaller groups where they felt they could have more autonomy and more expression, and then bring those topics to the group and discuss them. So we've been carrying out those themes throughout the past 2.5 months. And what we're finding right now is like, that's getting a little mundane, and they're like, okay, we want to talk tactics. We want to start playing. We want to start getting after it. We want to start, having some metrics in place. And I'm like, now I'm the one saying, slow down with the hockey. We have to make sure that this may take us a year to iron out. And, there are topics of, what is our mission statement, and how are the actionable pieces behind that mission statement playing out in COVID times and when we come back and we meet? And how are we being responsible? How are we being accountable to one another? And how are we having difficult conversations with one another when we feel like we can, kind of like motivate the group? So every Monday morning or Monday afternoon, we have a leadership council that's comprised of 6 members of our team. And those are kind of like hot topics on the pulse of the team. How's it going? They have a responsibility for reaching out to their classmates and the team as a whole to figure out the direction of where we want our Wednesday calls to go. And it's just they're giving us true feedback from the team's perspective of what are things that we need to redirect or continue on or move towards. So really great, meaningful conversations that we're having with that particular group. And then on our Wednesday calls are, everything from a cultural piece to this Wednesday, we will have a more engagement of, okay, one of the activities we had done was, what are your super strengths? What is that one thing that when you step out on the field that you have that unbelievable self-belief that hands down 10 out of 10 times, no matter what the opponent, no matter what the circumstances are, what is that one super strength that you're bringing to this team every single day? And they had to share it with each other. So there's raw feedback of like, my super strength is this. And then you have the availability of others kind of playing devil's advocate and saying, actually, Gerard, I think your super strength is this. You said it was, your vision. And honestly, I don't think it's, I think you're growing in that area. So you get this, feedback from peers, peer-to-peer assessment. And I think that without creating that safe space, you can't, have that interaction. So they're getting after it and they're challenging each other. But in addition to that, it's like, okay, this is the style of hockey that we're playing. And this is the style of hockey that we've been trying to grow over the last 3-4 years. And it's getting closer and it's getting better. So what are the technical, the tactical, and the cognitive skill sets that are necessary for us to play that style of attack, to play that style of defense, and also to play that style of, transition hockey and counter hockey? And how are we being proactive and as aggressive as possible? Even during COVID can't be an excuse. COVID has to be a way that we matriculate and we still find solutions. So if we're playing possession and an aggressive, direct style of attack, well, then there's a certain skill set that you need in order to play that style. So, okay, boom, break out into your groups again. What are you doing? How are you staying fit? How are you increasing your individual skill set? And I think that that's what you find encouraging from the group is they challenge each other. Hey, this is what I'm working on. And then they send it in a group meet to one another. And then somebody else says, I'm doing that, but I'm going to tag this skill set on top of that. And so they're motivating each other and holding each other accountable for that. But most importantly, it's that connection. It's that sense of unity that you're not alone. You may be in North Carolina, you may be in Belgium, you may be in Texas, but how can we get eyes on each other and how can we build each other up and we can support each other? I love the fact that Moogs and Hannah, they're like, hey, the last thing I want to do is MAS training at 7 o'clock in the morning by myself, because I know I train better when I am with my teammates and I know I train harder. Like my teammates extrinsically and intrinsically motivate me to get the most out of myself and to give. And so they like got on each other and they're just like sending swelties to each other and just like they got their phone next to each other when they're running and they're just like, yeah, I think I just coughed up my left lung. And so they're trying to stay attached. And then hearing that was just like, okay, well then somebody went after, one of my English kids. Hey, you get on, you do this with me. And you just see the partnership start to happen organically, which again, from Jackie and Gonzo and I, it's just so unbelievably awesome to see. Like the 2020 class to me, and I'm getting a little excited here, but the 2020 class has the best training environment coming into preseason than any other class has before them. Like they know an Anna Van Hoof, they know a Nat Freeman, they know a Kennedy Wainwright, they know all these kids because they've been on Zoom with them for 3.5, 4 months. And to me, that type of relationship, that type of connection is what's going to make Wake Forest hockey the brand that it's always aspired to be, the brand that's been electrifying and the brand that wins national championships. So yeah.
I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. Attack COVID, attack it as a team. I love it, Jen. And Ed.
It's an obstacle.
Yep.
Right?
Ed, if you're continuing to get notes from folks that are having trouble accessing, one of the notes we've gotten back is that it seems like the toll-free number might not be operating the right way, but maybe some of the other numbers are. So for those that are getting texts from others that are having trouble logging in, maybe try calling in from a different number, and hopefully that'll work. But again, we'll record this and make sure that we send this back out. And another plug for those, we're continuing to have this conversation and dialogue. As you have comments, as you have questions that come to mind that relate to some of the discussion we're having, please, I encourage you to place those comments and questions in the chat box. Jen, a couple of other questions that had come up around the idea of this intermediary period, and you've spoken about just some of the teamwork and team elements of it. What guidance are you getting, or what guidance are we receiving from other entities, whether it's ACC or NCAA? How are you kind of following along with what's happening within the state of North Carolina? Melissa Martin was just interested in some of the other sources that are providing you with your discussion points or decision points and how you're deciding when and how training could start up.
Yes, thanks, Mel, for that question. Ellie Shannon from our athletic department just continues to be a wealth of knowledge and information and dissemination of information that is needed to be provided. And I think that John and his collective crew with Zacharewski and Ashley and everybody else who, has been working diligently, Randy Cass-Stevens. I mean, there's so many people. I'm going to leave somebody off, so I'm going to stop sharing names. But I think our department has done an excellent job of trying to provide the coaches an avenue to create a platform to work with. At times, I feel like we're trying to hone pigeons, right? It's like we get a plan together, we figure out how to get them all in, and then all of a sudden it changes. So I think the functionality of our department saying, we're going to give you information, but you have to be adaptable and try and stay adaptable. For myself, I will question everything and anything to the nth degree. Anybody who's worked with me knows that. So I'm always seeking and looking for solutions, and don't tell me no, we're going to find an answer. I'm on calls with a coaches coalition that we put together with a couple of ACC coaches, a couple of Big Ten coaches, a couple of independent schools, where we share concepts that are coming out from other entities. I'm on every educational platform that is available around the globe. I meet every Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday mornings at 11 o'clock with a group out of Holland and Germany, talking about, they're about 3 weeks ahead of us with their training and their regiments. So we have stayed in contact with what does it mean to operate in a paid leave of absence? How do you do that? Like when that was constructed to us and our hands were kind of like tied, like you could only work a half day. It was like, what? Like that doesn't exist. It doesn't work. So it's just like trying to be super efficient and learning ways that you can become more efficient with the times that you are working, not only with your student athletes, but your staff, and staying connected. What platforms are you going to use to present information? We have a great technology at Wake Forest in our Spidio, which is these different camera angles that zoom in on the field. Sometimes I've learned in my 29 history at Wake Forest, it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. So when we weren't allowed on our field and we weren't supposed to be there, Gonzo, Jackie, and I showed up there. Within 10 minutes, my phone was blowing up from the athletic director saying, there appears to be some people, some hockey players on a closed facility. And I was like, who? And he goes, looks rather similar to my coaching staff. And I was like, yeah, here's the thing. We'll put our mask on. So I made Jackie put a mask on underneath her helmet. Gonzo had her mask, but it was below on her neckline because she was having trouble breathing while, performing the acts. And then I was behind the camera because heaven forbid the old lady get out there and try and do a skill set. But so we're out there and we're filming this stuff because we know that when the NCAA allows us the opportunity to release these technical skills to our team, then we wanted to have that available. We wanted to be proactive. We wanted to say, listen, be mindful. These are the skill sets that we need to be hammering out, and you don't need a coach and you don't need other teammates. You can do these things. Find a tennis court, find a driveway, find your living room. I don't care what surface you find, but do it, get out there and get after it. And so, yeah, we got in a little bit of trouble, but it was definitely worth it.
As long as it's good trouble. Jen, a couple of questions coming in over the chat privately here. PG, one of the questions, Jen, you had mentioned, this is an opportunity to look at things that have been on the back burner that you haven't been able to prioritize, kind of bring up to the forefront. So the question is, what are some of those activities that you may not have been doing prior to the shutdown and COVID social distancing that now you're able to, one, work on, but two, would keep doing once we are back in person this fall, hopefully?
So what we weren't able to do was recreate a spring. I mean, wow, we just lost huge development, huge one-on-one time. In the springtime, it's so much about individual growth, like individual growth. In the fall, it's like, boom, we're a team. We got to take priorities of what the team needs. So, having said that, how do you create growth platforms to have individual growth? Maybe not skill set per se, because again, the NCAA says you can't recreate training activities. David Bass for strength and conditioning, he can't do a workout for you. Now, that has loosened up. So now what we're able to do, pardon me, is, again, we can't coach them. We can't coach hockey right now. We're in like our summertime rules. But what we can do is we can share film with them. We can say, last year, based upon, our counter press structure, this is what we did well, this is what we didn't do well. Pull up film, go into your breakout groups, let's assess this, let's talk about this. We can talk hockey tactics that way, but we can't coach hockey. When they return, if our first availability turn to being on campus is July 29th, okay? Then what does that look like? We still can't coach them, people. We still can't have hands-on, but what they would is they would be able to be together. They would be able to train and play pickup games together in smaller groups. They would be able to use our facilities, and all of those intricacies are being worked out. I know that David and his group is working on, okay, what does social distancing look like for the month of June? How do we set these platforms up so that, one kid is working in this space and yada, yada, yada. What I do know is that all of our student athletes right now are being asked to quarantine, okay, for 7 days prior to returning on the 29th in their home. So, they can't be out and about and socializing and at pool parties and stuff like that. That's just not going to work. When they return to campus after the 7 days of being in their home, wherever that may be, it could be Europe, it could be United States, wherever it is, then they come to campus and they quarantine for 48 hours. Okay. And again, you're not going down to the loop. You're not hanging out. You're getting to-go food. It's being delivered to your dorm room or to your apartment, and you're quarantined for 48 hours because you may have contracted COVID during the transport here. After that 48-hour period, you will be tested to make sure that, you're clean. And I've got my own set of tests I'd like to perform too, but that's another day and another story. Okay, but let's make sure that they're healthy and they're ready to rock and roll. And then we will start a grace period of After that 48-hour period, then they can show up on the turf and they can start using our facilities. They can start training in groups of 5 and 10. And who knows, again, the platform may change by the time we hit July 29th. Now that's what we will operate on moving forward. I think it's an unbelievable blessing that Wake Forest is a part of a Power 5 conference, because up until now, our season has not changed, right? Nobody has come to Jen Averill and said, delete games. Nobody has said, you're not playing a fully slated ACC conference. Nobody has said, we're not having an ACC tournament. We are trying to get it out of Syracuse. I mean, come on, Syracuse, no. At the beginning of November. So if we can move that tournament to Virginia, you got to be, yeah, we're going to be voting for that one. Any way we can deny them anything, we'd be happy. No, but on a serious note, so our plan is moving forward, and that is sort of like the beam that we're shining on all of our students is like, hey, we got to be ready. So let's, and it could change though, Gerard, it could change next week. And if it does, then we'll work within the confines of those changes. But right now we are looking to have our regularly slated schedule and move forward with there. I know that our big games in Chicago and Michigan State were a question. But thank goodness for the gracious of our support in our discretionary fund. If it becomes a financial issue, boom, we have that in place. And thank you to so many of you for providing us an opportunity that if that is one of our handcuffs, I can say to the administration, no, we will take those funds out of our discretionary so that we can still play Northwestern and Michigan State, and we don't have to drop down to a 15-game schedule. So we're marching ahead. My biggest obstacle right now is I got to get my internationals back. Okay, so anybody who has an in with our embassies, the embassies are not working, and our internationals are having some unbelievable trying times of trying to manufacture a way to get back. They so desperately want to be reunited with their team. And I don't talk about what if right now, because that's not the scenario, but that is a very, very scary space for them to be in. And every single day, I am asking all of my constituents around the country of how we can assist, how we can better assist these people to return to Winston-Salem, because what we're doing right now is not good enough.
Jen, appreciate that, and appreciate your support and bringing up the appreciation we all have of those that have contributed to that discretionary fund, and understand that a lot of you that have contributed toward that are on this call and part of this conversation. Thank you from all of us in the athletic department, what you're doing for our student athletes and allowing us the opportunity to invest in a way that's going to provide a world-class experience for them is game-changing. So for those that are contributing to that Field Hockey Excellence Fund, thank you. For Kelly Dostal, who I think is now, if the ACC tournament ends up going back to Boston from Syracuse, is now offering a way for us to have some kind of socially distanced pep rally party leading into that tournament. Thank you. We'll take you up on that offer as well. There were a number of parents that had asked questions, Jen, about COVID and kind of how we'd bring student athletes back to campus, how we were focusing on internationals. Hopefully, those questions have been answered. If any of the specific questions that were out there we maybe skipped over, we should circle back to, please put that in the chat box and we can absolutely circle back into that conversation. I appreciate that.
I think,
A lot of
Gerard,
other questions.
if I could just tap into that, I think what's really needed is just the transparency by which the athletic department, the university, we have not released information to the general public, like the details and the specifics, because we are so absolutely engrossed with making sure that everything that we say we can deliver. And I think with Dr. Hatch and with John Curry and everybody else that's involved, to a Kate Ruley and to a Murphy Grant, it's like, how do we ensure, first and foremost, that we are creating the safest environment for all of our students to return to? Okay, I had a young lady who's a 21 recruit of mine. She was asking me, you know, she was talking to me about not returning to her club because there's a member in her family that's high risk. And she was nervous, and I was just like, please, like, my goodness, you're doing the absolute. You don't need, for Wake Forest hockey, you don't need to go to another day at your club. You are good enough where you are right now. Like, if you never play another day for that club, just know we are going to embrace you. We're going to welcome you. We're going to take you, but you are good enough how you are right now. And for all those students that are returning, you know, whether it's their professor who has difficulty teaching in class and in person, then we have to have the confidence in ourselves to be able to take that course online, because that professor, you know, has that vulnerability, and we don't want to put them in that situation. So we have to have great empathy for the constraints that this disease is creating for all of us. And that's where I'm super proud of our student athletes, with just embracing this and knowing that Wake Forest has their back, and we would never, ever, ever jeopardize their health. Like, I'm like, how are we getting them on airplanes? How are we, you know, I will bus it if my team is like, no. If we have enough people that feel insecure of, you know, that type of travel constraint, and heck, Dote, I don't know, maybe she and I will meet at Virginia or something. We'll meet halfway, but I just know that you have great ambassadors that are putting the health concerns of the people in front. And you know what? If at the end of the day, in the middle of the season, they shut it down, well, we're going to have some huge, like, problems to deal with, but above and beyond, it'll be based upon health. And, you know, the last time I checked, we're just trying to be the best version of ourselves. And the only way you can do that is if you're alive.
Well said, Jen. And you've dropped a couple of names of folks around not just the athletic forum, but the campus community that have made their number one concern the safety and well-being of not just our students, but the entire campus community and Winston-Salem community. And that's what will drive every decision made as we talk about next steps and bringing folks back to campus and competition and play this fall. Transitioning the conversation a little bit to that play this fall, that was another big recurring theme and questions we received leading up to our conversation here. Questions around the roster for this fall. Jen, folks that you may be leaning on for vocal leadership, competitive leadership, and just kind of the general outlook for this year. So those questions came from Julia Ryan, Sal Balsamo, a few others, just asking for the general outlook for your fall season. Without having a spring, I know there are some things that you're projecting a little bit at this point. I'd love to hear just a little bit about your outlook for competition come this fall.
You know, what greater source of energy and passion is the squad that we have before us. And that's what keeps Jackie, Gonzo, and myself, you know, that illumination is just, can we please get back to this team? The best way that I can summarize what we have in front of us for the fall is to go back to our alums, to people that have known the brand of Wake Forest hockey over years and years and years and years. And the feedback that we're getting is like, look, last year was a part of the process. Last year was a part of the struggle. Last year, there was so much growth. Last year, there was so much development. And moving forward into this year, we're hearing from so many people about, wow, your team really has it going on. And I compliment, you know, I'm going to give it up to Jackie and Gonzo, because literally those two individuals, and that's not to slight anybody that has worked with me in the past. I'm just saying that they are to attract both the domestic and the international hockey players, but to attract just the character piece of our program and get those kids and to electrify them and motivate them and really take a personal investment in each one of those individuals and breathe life into them. But the incoming class of 2020, without a doubt, is really true. We're about to release it. We've been anxiously waiting to release it. That coupled with, you know, we have small numbers. We're still a really young team, and we have 3 seniors, you know, heading into next year. But the experience of these 3 seniors and the junior, the numbers that we have in the junior class and the seasoned sophomore class, who literally came into last year and it was just like, boom, I need you to play midfield. Boom, I need you to play on the strike line. So they're very well rehearsed, and while we're young, we have great experience, but that freshman class, they're just personality, character, creativity, you know, the creativity that they have, the boldness that they have. Like, if you could hear some of these kids speaking as incoming freshmen on team Zooms, you would be floored. Like, Crandall, I know you're on this call, man. Like, I'm going to have to kick some of these freshmen out of practice. I already see it happening. You know, they're not afraid to speak up and blah, blah, blah. So I'll simmer them down a little bit, but it's just so awesome to see, you know, them just being able to put themselves out there and take some risks and not worrying about, was that right? Was that wrong? What am I supposed to say? They're just out there. And to back it up, yeah, they're just technically and tactically, they're legit. So the depth that they are adding, the depth that our freshman class had with the experience that they had, with our juniors leveling up and really playing marquee players. Somebody like an Eleanor has had, I'm singling Eleanor out for a purpose. I don't know if she's on this call. If she is, good, I get to embarrass her. But you talk about a kid who has just, you know, moved her needle in so many ways. She doesn't need a title to be a leader on our team, and she is leading our team. And then just making the versatility and really owning and appreciating the value that she brings to our backfield with her possession skills, but also owning and appreciating the fact that, you know, she has a scoring ability about herself, and she's young and she's still raw with her defensive side, playing higher up the pitch for us. But she knows that when she gets into the game, if she's going to play on the strike line, she can bury teams. And if she's in the backfield, that she can possess. And but then also coupling that with her own understanding of how she can lead is just, you know, that's the type of growth that we want kids to have. And that's the type of energy and passion that we want them to share with the rest of the team. So, you know, that's just awesome. And, you know, with our 3 senior leaders, with Grippo and Elisha and Ansky, you know, they mean business. And for them, I think going into this year, to have such a questionable year, am I going to have 18 games? Am I going to have 12 games? When's the season going to start? Is it going to start? All we can do is empower these 3 people that we are with them, and we're going to fight for them. And we will do everything to try and create the most competitive, team unified, and great last season for them as possible.
Jen, along this line of thought, and you mentioned some of the leadership you have within the current roster, and also mentioned that 2020 class. We had a few questions around whether it's a 2020 class or just kind of your recruiting outlook in general, just around how you recruit. You kind of mentioned that the personality that's coming out of this freshman class, but a particular question kind of comes to life from that. Josh Sokoloff asked, are there any traits outside of just pure athletic ability that you look for specifically as you go around the country and really internationally as well? But as you go through the recruiting process, what are you really looking for in those young women?
Absolutely. So we as a coaching entity set up sort of like this recruiting template that when you have a new person such as Jackie Briggs come into the program, she can identify. It's like, okay, I'm ready to go. Let me tell, what should I do? Where should I go? What should I be looking for? This is like a blueprint for her to operate from. And what it basically has is 10 characteristics. Okay, 10 characteristics that are defined by the coaching staff. And then we have a +1. And so the +1 is all three of us have decided these 10 are non-negotiable. Okay, like we believe so wholeheartedly in these 10 characteristic pieces. And they're everything from, you know, your passion to your commitment to discipline to edgy to gritty, you know, those type of vocabulary words. But what are the actionable pieces behind those words? And to be a recruit at Wake Forest, you have to exemplify, you have to possess 70% of them. And if you don't make the short list. It's that simple. You could be the world's greatest gift to hockey and have the best set of hands and be the most talented student athlete out there, and Wake Forest is not looking at you. And my alums can attest to this. There are great players out there that we don't even look at because you're not selfless. You don't have humility. You don't put we before me. And these are tangible things that we are critiquing, that we're looking for, okay, in recruits before we ever spend our energy and our money into recruiting them. So if you don't, and oh, by the way, there's consistency in that. So there has to be consistency in 70% of those attributes in the classroom and your social behavior, as well as being on the hockey field. And what we found just recently with our recruiting efforts of the 2022s is how excited these kids were to be on a Zoom with the coaching staff. Like, we can't recruit them. They can't showcase their skills, but it caters to Wake Forest recruiting style. Yeah. We know the hockey piece of you, but now we get to dive into these 10 characteristics. And oh, by the way, the 10 characteristics are coupled with, each coach said there's one on there that we personally believe in. And Jackie Briggs 100% believes in the kid's creativity. She wants to see the creativeness of the kid. And Gonzo's is, they have to have a growth mindset, Jen. They can't be, closed-minded. They can't think that they're it. They got to keep thinking, growing, and blah, blah. And mine is self-belief. At the end of the day, you have to understand your why. You have to wake up. You have to appreciate who you are, what you were created, and no matter who knocks you down, whatever you read on a Snapchat or whatever they do social media wise or whatever, no matter what hits you, no matter what adversity, you have that intrinsic motive to get up and get after it. And so those are the types of things that we are working with these recruits, with the 2020s, with the 2021s, with the 2022s, and with our current team. What's your super strength? Hockey wise, but then that characteristic piece, because everybody who's attached to this program knows it's CPR. We'll do CPR one of two ways. We literally will do that to you on the field and get your heart running again. But character stands for the C, P is process, and R is results. And the bottom line is we live in a society where we are based upon results. Everything is result driven. Nobody cares about the process. They just care about the results. How many games are you going to win? How many goals are you going to score? What's this? What's that? Blah, blah, blah. No, we are more interested in players who have the investment in the process. And so if you're invested in the process, you're not invested in, am I the top 11? You're invested in what will get you to be one of the top 11.
Second time in the last hour, I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Thanks. And seeing some of these comments, Lauren just posted publicly here on the chat box, but a couple coming through privately as well. I saw a lot of nodding heads and a lot of amens from alumni chiming in privately in that chat box here. Appreciate that. We have maybe about 5 minutes here. So if there are any kind of last questions, feel welcome to share those in the chat box. Chandler Wagner, Jen, asked, you were talking about super strength earlier, maybe at the beginning of the conversation. Chandler wants to know what your super strength is. And maybe I want to know, does your team agree with your super strength that you gave yourself?
That's a great question. I have enough humility that I would ask any of you to address that. But I think I asked this of my family. I asked this of my team, and I asked this of my administration. And if somebody could question my passion and say that I live without passion, I will argue that to my death. I think that my super strength is I have the innate ability to see greatness in individuals. I love to lead people. I love to examine and bring out the best. Sometimes I screw up and I make mistakes in trying to bring out the best in people, but it's always a growth and it's always a learning process. But I don't know any other way than to be passionate. And I'm passionate pretty much 100, like 365 days out of the week. And if I'm not doing that, I'm dead. The other thing that I think, Alan, you had asked just real quick, just about our tailgating. In case many of you have not been to Kentner lately during a hockey game, I don't know which action is going on, whether it's on the field or if it's at the tailgate zone. I've been tempted at times to leave my halftime speech and go up and join you all, but legitimately, we have first team All-Americans at those tailgates. Our parents are absolutely crushing it. And I think it goes hand in hand with the mission that we're trying to, like, not only are we as a team trying to connect and unite, but our parents, like, look, the best scorecard we can give ourselves is, do we have a relationship after the 4 years that we spend with one another? And those parents that are creating such a great environment of inviting alums and parents and the kids after the games to attend and be a part of is just such a great extension of Wake Forest hockey. And I couldn't be more proud of it. When we finally get the go-ahead to actually put some construction down and solidify that slot, I'll be the first one schlepping cement and pouring it and hammering nails and doing whatever. But it is, it's quite impressive. But most importantly, outside of the meals and the structures that they do, it's just the love that they're sharing with one another.
To that point, Trisha Gill, and Trisha, I don't know if you're on this call calling in, you might win the furthest call-in award if you're on from Alaska. But Trisha had written in, is there anybody that, Jen, you'll miss more having in the stands than Jeff Bailey and Trisha, and the energy that you all brought? And to your point, Jen, it's all the parents and that tailgate atmosphere. And these things are great. The Zoom is great. And I love seeing the little 2x2 squares on my screen and seeing some of your faces again. But it's going to be special when we can all get back together and share some water in the tailgate space and enjoy cheering on the team together. The special Deer Park water bottles that the parents have brought.
Yeah, and Gerard, I have a question for Trisha. Like, Trisha, what do you mean am I going to miss you? You didn't go anywhere. You have told me you're going to be at Wake, still at the team, and we're in Louisville. You're going to be hosting the team again. So you haven't gone anywhere.
And she better not. Y'all, thank you again. And Jen, I'm going to let you close this down and share some final thoughts here. But seeing 80 some odd folks register for this opportunity to connect virtually and deal with the first 15 minutes of call-in trouble, it's powerful to see the passion that is not just present within the coaching staff, but all the alumni, all the parents, all the friends we have with the program. So thank you to everyone on this call for all you do, all you do to help us invest in hosting a top flight field hockey program. Thank you for all you continue to do to vocally support the program, and look forward to seeing you all this fall. Jen, I'll let you close us out.
Yeah, Gerard, I want to thank, there's so many people I want to thank. First and foremost, starting with my immediate squad, with the team, to the extension of the team, their parents, their siblings, and the value that they add to all of us. To our development group, to yourself, to Alan, to Paul, to you guys, just like literally, you are the managers behind the team. You're doing the grunt work. You're getting, like-minded people to connect with one another and see how you can grow our product and make it more, have a greater exposure outside of the revenue producing sports, and really attesting to the pro humanitate. Ed Bela, I know you're on this call, and I know, the gift of life and things like that. I mean, what a great foundation that field hockey can be attached to, but then the other sporting programs within Wake Forest can be attached to, that Wake Forest can be attached to, that universities around the country can be attached to. It started with an umbrella of field hockey. It started with you, Ed, and now it just continues to grow. But that's how this tree can grow. And that's the mission in all of us. To my illustrious, alum, I mean, I get so much energy. I just get so much faith and belief behind what it is that I'm doing. I wish I could have been the coach that I am today for all of you in my experience and what I've grown and what you've taught me. But I wouldn't take it in any of it back, because that growth and those mistakes were a part of who I am today, and how I can continue to be better and stronger and a better leader for all of us. To my staff, there's been a lot of reflection in these COVID times where you can have some nostalgia, and I'll end with this. When I was a recruit back in 1922, and I met my college coach, Nancy Stevens, I learned at a very young age, and I had this, thank goodness, through the grace of my mother, God rest her soul. But it's people, it's aligning yourself to like-minded people. And I knew the minute that I met Nancy Stevens and the direction and the course that she was about to offer to me, and I believed so wholeheartedly in the message that she was giving me, that I couldn't believe that somebody would do that for me. Like, I knew my family would do that, but I didn't believe that somebody would do that for me, would believe that way in me. And then taking that experience and that growth and going like, how do I find kids like that? How do I find people like that? And Jackie Kinzer Briggs and Gonzo and all of my alum and all of my current squad, and those of you that are on the call that have yet to step on foot, like, just wait. That's what it's all about. It is like, literally, you have to have that connection. You have to have that belief, because that is the inspiration, that is the resiliency, and that is our heart and our love just pouring out in a sport. And that's what'll keep us connected forever. So I thank all of you for taking time out in a crazy busy, like, the last thing you need is another Zoom under your belt. But thank you for taking the time out. And most importantly, thank you for believing in Wake Forest hockey. I love you guys.
Thank you all. Sign me up for that advanced copy of the motivational book once you write it, Jen. I'm with Sam there. Looking forward to that. But thank you all again. Look forward to seeing you hopefully in the very near future. Stay safe, and go Deeks.
Boom. Thanks, Gerard.